Everyone thinks they know Workingman's Dead, the album that saved the Grateful Dead from bankruptcy, the one where they stopped being a psychedelic jam band and became something else entirely. And if you know that record, you know High Time, that gorgeous, sad country waltz tucked near the end, the one with the pedal steel that sounds like it's crying. But here's what most people don't know. Jerry Garcia hated it, not the song itself. He called it beautiful, but he hated what he did to it. In 1972, 2 years after the album came out, Garcia told an interviewer straight up, "The song that I think failed on Workingman's Dead is High Time. It's a beautiful song, but I was just not able to sing it worth a shit." And then he said something even more brutal. "I wish someone who could really sing would do one of those songs sometime." Think about that for a second. One of the most emotionally devastating songs in the Dead's catalog, a song that Deadheads still argue about which live version is best, a song that stopped audiences cold when they debuted it, and the guy singing it thought he failed. So what actually happened? How did this song get written? Why did Garcia think it failed? And why did it disappear for 6 years before coming back completely transformed? The story starts in early 1969 in a house in Larkspur, California, in a canyon called Madrone. Robert Hunter had no money. I mean zero. He was a lyricist, which is not exactly a paying gig when you're writing for a band that's hemorrhaging cash on psychedelic experiments and extended studio sessions that go nowhere. So Jerry Garcia did what you do for a friend who's broke. He said, "Come live with me." Hunter and his girlfriend moved into Garcia's place in Madrone Canyon, this house tucked into the redwoods north of San Francisco. And that's where it started. Garcia would be upstairs practicing guitar. Hunter would be downstairs writing. Mountain Girl, Carolyn Garcia, later described what those months were like. Hunter was up 24 hours a day, chain smoking, and he'd come down in the morning and he'd have a stack of songs. Not lyrics, songs, complete songs. And according to the Dead archivist, Garcia already knew how they should go before Hunter even handed them over. This is important because it's completely different from how the Dead usually worked. Before this, songs kind of emerged organically through jamming, through the collective mind of the band doing its thing on stage. But Hunter and Garcia, living in the same house, developed this other method. Hunter wanted to write a certain kind of song. He said later he was trying to capture those old songs like the jukebox tunes in some of the bars my father frequented. He was thinking about that Bakersfield sound, that late 40s country music, the stuff that sounds simple but cuts right through you. High Time came out of that period. The exact date isn't clear, but by June of '69, the Dead had it ready. On June 20th and 21st, they played the Fillmore East in New York, and that's where they debuted it. Gary Lambert, one of the Dead commentators, was there. He said later, "Nothing in their previous history could have prepared you for such a heartbreaking, beautiful, melodic ballad." Think about what the audience was expecting. Probably Dark Star, probably some extended cosmic freakout. Instead, they got this delicate, sad country song about time running out and missed chances. But here's the thing, it almost didn't survive its first month. In August of '69, the Dead played Woodstock. Everyone knows the Woodstock set was a disaster. Mickey and Billy couldn't even hear each other. The sound was terrible. There were helicopters buzzing overhead. It was dawn by the time they went on, and the acid was wearing off. But what people didn't know is that Garcia tried to play High Time during that set. They'd just finished Mama Tried, and Garcia wanted to segue into this new ballad. The transition collapsed. Sound issues, chaos, the whole thing fell apart. Later in the set, Garcia insisted on trying again, basically guiding the band through it despite the helicopter noise drowning everything out. That's dedication, or maybe obsession. Garcia believed in this song even when the circumstances were working against it. So they took it into the studio. Early 1970, the Dead went into Pacific High Recorders to make Workingman's Dead, and everything about how they approached it was different. Their tour manager, Sam Cutler, explained it later. They were basically broke. The band had been spending months in the studio on previous albums, experimenting endlessly, and the bills were piling up. Cutler said, "There's nothing that focuses a band's minds collectively more than poverty." For the first time, they wrote and rehearsed the songs before entering the studio. This was not how the Grateful Dead operated, but they didn't have a choice, and the engineers, Cantor and Bob Matthews, had their own approach. Matthews explained their philosophy. You do not fix it in the mix. What they did instead on songs like High Time was something called a crossover track. They'd record 2 complete takes, then literally blend from one performance to another using tape manipulation. Not punch-ins, not fixes. A seamless transition from one complete performance to another. The pristine vocal you hear on the record, that's not one take. It's 2 takes blended together so smoothly you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. And here's something else. What most people think is Jerry Garcia's pedal steel guitar, that's actually Bob Weir's electric guitar run through a Leslie rotating speaker cabinet. The kind of cabinet you'd normally use for an organ. It fooled everybody. It still fools people. The album came out in June of '70. High Time was track 2 right out of the gate after Uncle John's Band, before Direwolf and New Speedway Boogie. And it's gorgeous. The acoustic guitars, that crying pedal steel that isn't pedal steel, the harmonies, Hunter's lyrics about all the things we've done, and did you think it could last forever? It sounds like the most effortless thing in the world, which is probably why Garcia hated what he did to it. Because by '72, he was already talking about how it failed. And in '77, he was still saying it. High Time is a beautiful song, but I don't think our performance on the record was very good. It's a better song than we performed it. This wasn't false modesty. Garcia genuinely believed he couldn't sing it right, that his voice wasn't good enough for what the song needed. Meanwhile, the band kept playing it live. They played it 46 times before the Workingman's sessions. They played it 16 times during the sessions. The early live versions were different from the studio recording. They had Tom Constantin on organ. They were slightly faster. They had this intro that got cut from the album version. And then, after July of 1970, it just stopped. The last performance was in July, and then nothing. For nearly 6 years, High Time disappeared from the set list. Why? The band never really explained it. Maybe it was Garcia's dissatisfaction with his own singing. Maybe it was too delicate for where the band was heading in the early '70s. Maybe it just got lost in the shuffle of hundreds of other songs. But for 6 years and 345 shows, they didn't play it once. June 9th, 1976, Boston Music Hall, middle of the first set. And suddenly, there it is again, High Time. But it's different now. It's slower. The harmonies are more intricate. There's this mournful quality that the early versions didn't quite have. One of the Daily Dose of Dead reviewers described it as having beautiful harmonies and real intricate playing that has the hall wrapped with attention. Garcia's voice had changed in 6 years. He was older. He'd lived more, and maybe he could finally sing the song he had always heard it in his head. And once it came back, it kept evolving. May 17th, '77, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. That's the version Deadheads argue about. It's over 11 minutes long. Somebody on Heady Version called it just over 11 minutes of godness. And that's not an exaggeration. Garcia's vocal is emotionally raw. The guitar work is intricate. And there's this thing that happens around the 8-minute mark where the whole band locks in and it becomes something else entirely. And then there's the September 10th, '91 performance at Madison Square Garden with Branford Marsalis sitting in on saxophone. A reviewer called that one spectacular, said Garcia threads the needle between mournful and celebratory, which is exactly right. We could have a high time. The song had become this vehicle for Garcia to explore different emotional registers, to balance sadness with something like acceptance. David Lemieux, the Dead's archivist, described High Time as feeling like drifting along in a canoe in summer. He tracked the statistics. Played in '69 and '70, dropped completely until 76, then performed almost every year after that except 78, 83, and 89. The last performance was March 24, 95, at the Charlotte Coliseum. By then, Garcia had been singing the song for 26 years, and maybe he'd finally made peace with it. But here's the thing that gets me about this whole story. Ethan Hine, a music theorist, analyzed the chord structure of High Time and called it the weirdest song on Workingman's Dead. The album is supposed to be roots music, right? Country and folk and Americana. But High Time does these harmonic things that shouldn't work in a country song. These chord changes that are more jazz than Nashville. It's disguised as a simple ballad, but it's actually structurally complex in ways that most listeners don't consciously hear, but definitely feel. So maybe that's why Garcia thought he failed it, because the song itself is more sophisticated than it appears, and he knew that. He could hear the gap between what the song could be and what he felt he delivered. But what he couldn't hear or wouldn't acknowledge was that his voice, with all its imperfections and roughness and humanity, was exactly what the song needed. Hunter's lyrics are about time running out, about looking back at what's been done and what's been left undone. You don't sing that with a perfect voice. You sing it with a voice that knows something about regret. The recordings prove it. Go listen to that Tuscaloosa version from 77, or the Boston Return in 76, or the Madison Square Garden show with Marsalis. Garcia's voice cracks sometimes. He's not hitting every note clean. But that's not failure, that's authenticity. That's what makes the song work. And maybe that's the real untold story of High Time. Not that Garcia failed it, but that he never understood he'd succeeded. He took a song written in a house in Madrone Canyon, a song inspired by jukebox country tunes and Hank Williams, and he made it into something that could hold 26 years of his life. The studio version is beautiful, and yeah, American Beauty gets all the love, but this is the deeper cut. The live versions are transcendent. And the fact that Garcia never quite believed that just makes it more human. The song that failed was the song that never failed at all.